Welcome to your deep dive. We're all about dog training today. And we always like to come prepared with a great resource.
Oh, yeah.
So, today we've got Training Rex in the City. It's a dog training manual put together by the city of Vancouver, and it's written by this incredible expert, Nancy Clarke.
Hmm.
And I have to say, you're going to be amazed by how much practical info they packed into this thing.
Really?
It's not just your typical sit and stay commands.
All right.
It really delves into the how and the why behind dog training,
I love
like the actual science and the thinking behind it.
Yeah, it's fascinating how she's combined, those clear practical techniques, but she's really grounded it in a deep understanding of dog behavior.
Yeah,
It's not just a bag of tricks. It's about truly building a partnership with your dog,
exactly.
which I think is so important.
I agree. So, okay, before we get into all the nitty-gritty of like the 8-week program, can you tell me a little bit about Nancy Clarke and her background? I was super impressed when I read about her credentials.
Oh, she's definitely the real deal.
Yeah.
She's not only managing Vancouver Animal Control Services,
Right.
but she's also doing her PhD in animal science at UBC.
Wow.
And get this, focusing on canine aggression.
Oh, wow.
And that's on top of decades of professional dog training experience going all the way back to 1973.
That's amazing.
And if that weren't enough, she's also deeply involved in dog sports and therapy dog programs.
She's done it all.
She's incredible.
It sounds like she's dedicated her life to understanding dogs.
Oh, absolutely.
And I bet that really shines through in this manual.
I think so.
So what's the big picture goal here? Like, what will someone be able to do with their dog after these 8 weeks?
So the core focus is on teaching those rock-solid obedience commands.
Yeah.
They're really the foundation for any well-behaved dog, right?
Okay.
But what I think is so great is that it's designed to be accessible to anyone,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether you've trained a dog before or this is your very first time.
I think that's really reassuring to hear because I know a lot of people get intimidated by the thought of dog training.
Yeah, me too.
Including myself, to be honest.
It can feel like there's so much to learn.
Yeah, there's so much jargon and all
Okay.
these different methods, and it's...
Right, and it's hard to know where to start.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Yeah.
nice to know that this manual is designed to be accessible.
And it really breaks everything down into those easy to understand steps.
Okay.
And it constantly emphasizes the importance of building that positive relationship with your dog
Okay. Yeah.
throughout the entire process.
Yeah, that's so crucial, right? Because it shouldn't feel like a battle of wills or like you're trying to dominate your dog or anything like that.
It's about working together.
It's about working together. It should be a fun and rewarding experience for both the dog and the owner.
Exactly. And that's where I think the manual's emphasis on really understanding dog behavior comes in.
Okay.
So one of the key concepts in here is the difference between positive and negative reinforcement.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever struggled with that? Like figuring out how to motivate your dog?
Oh, all the time.
Me too. It's like I'm speaking a different language sometimes.
I know it's such a common challenge.
Yeah.
But the manual explains it in a way that's super clear.
Okay, good.
So positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about rewarding the behaviors that you want to see.
Okay.
So think treats, praise, a fun game, anything that your dog loves
Right.
that makes them more likely to repeat those good behaviors.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, negative reinforcement.
Okay.
This involves removing something unpleasant to discourage those unwanted behaviors.
Okay.
So it's not about punishment.
Right.
It's about that gentle guidance.
So it's less about like forcing your dog to obey
Right.
and more about setting them up for success by making it clear what you expect.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what I think is so insightful
Yeah.
is that it brings up the concept of least intrusive correction.
Okay.
So it's about starting with the gentlest approach possible. And you only escalate if it's absolutely necessary. So, it's like giving them a little nudge in the right direction, but always pairing that with a big dose of positive reinforcement when they get it right.
I like that. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings up something I've always wondered about, which is timing.
Mm-hmm.
Does it really matter when you correct or reward your dog?
Oh, timing is absolutely crucial.
Really?
The manual really emphasizes that you have this tiny window,
Okay.
like half a second to 2 seconds,
Wow.
to make that connection clear for your dog.
Okay.
If you miss that window,
Uh-huh.
they won't understand why they're being corrected or praised.
That's wild. I had no idea it was that specific.
It's pretty amazing.
Okay, so no delayed reactions.
Right.
That definitely explains why some of my past attempts at training have been less successful
We've all been there.
than I'd hoped.
It's a learning curve for sure.
So the manual talks about these 3 stages of learning that every dog goes through with each new skill,
Yeah,
which I think could be really helpful.
I think so too.
So first there's the teaching stage,
Right.
where your dog is figuring out like what the command even means.
Exactly. It's like they look at you with that tilted head.
Yeah, like what are you talking about?
Like, what on earth are you asking me to do?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you've got the correction stage.
Okay.
So now they understand the expectation,
Okay.
but they still might need a little nudge to get it right,
Yeah.
followed by that praise when they do.
Okay.
And then finally, you've got the proofing stage,
Okay.
which is all about ensuring that they can perform the behavior reliably, even when there are distractions. So this is where things get really interesting because you're essentially testing how solid their understanding is.
So it's like taking them out of the classroom and into the real world.
It is. It is.
Okay, this is cool. I like this.
I like this too.
It's a very thoughtful approach.
Yeah.
So what else is in this treasure trove of dog training wisdom? Was there anything that surprised you?
You know, I was really impressed by the emphasis on hand signals. It's like having this secret language with your dog.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to communicate clearly without even saying a word.
That's a game changer.
It really is.
My dog definitely responds to my tone of voice and my body language. But I've never really considered incorporating specific hand signals into training.
It's so useful.
Yeah, it seems like that could be especially helpful in noisy environments.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The manual explains how to teach them effectively
Okay.
and stresses the importance of being consistent with your signals.
Okay.
So instead of just relying on verbal commands,
Right.
you're adding this whole other layer of communication, which can be so beneficial, especially as you progress through the program
Right.
and you start working on those more advanced commands.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we've touched on some of the overarching principles here.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of itching to dive into like the week by week breakdown.
Okay, sure.
What does the first week look like? What kind of prep work should I be doing to get ready for this whole training journey?
Okay, so week 1, it's all about laying that groundwork for success.
Okay.
It's about getting yourself and your dog ready for the weeks ahead.
Okay.
And the manual starts with, I think, the most important thing,
Yeah.
making sure that your dog is healthy and up to date on all their vaccinations.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
After all, you wouldn't want to start training
Right.
only to discover there's some medical reason why they're not progressing.
Right. That's a great point. It's easy to overlook those basic things when you're excited to jump into training.
It is. It's like we just want to get going.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a trip to the vet
Yes,
before we even think about commands.
exactly. Once you get the all clear from your vet,
Uh-huh.
then it's time to gather your equipment.
Okay.
So the manual recommends using a flat nylon or leather collar,
Okay.
or a half-check training collar, which is a combination of nylon and chain,
Okay.
but they really caution against choke chains.
Well, that's good to know. I've always been a little wary of those choke chains, but I wasn't really sure why.
Yeah, I mean, they could be dangerous and inhumane
Right.
if they're not used correctly.
Okay.
There's a high risk of misuse and potential for injury, so it's best to just avoid them altogether.
Okay. Good advice.
A regular collar or a half-check collar
Uh-huh.
is much safer and more effective.
Okay, noted. So we've got our vet checkup. We've got our collar. What else is on this week 1 checklist?
Okay, so you'll need a 6-foot fabric or leather leash,
Okay.
no chains allowed,
Okay.
and a 30-foot long line,
Okay.
which will come in handy for certain exercises later on in the program.
Okay. Makes sense. And of course, we can't forget the most important training tool of all treats.
Oh, absolutely.
Gotta have those treats.
Yes, the manual recommends those soft, high-value treats that your dog finds irresistible.
Right.
So think little cubes of cheese,
Mhm.
hot dog pieces, anything that will really motivate your furry friend.
Yes. This all seems very manageable so far.
Hmm.
Are there any specific exercises or concepts that we're introduced to in week 1?
Yeah.
Or is it mostly prep work and getting acquainted with those basics?
So week 1 is about building that solid foundation,
Okay.
both mentally and physically.
Okay.
The manual goes into detail about holding the leash correctly,
Okay.
getting your dog comfortable in that heel position.
Okay.
And it introduces the basic training theory that we talked about earlier, that positive and negative reinforcement,
Right.
timing those stages of learning.
So it's about making sure that we're both on the same page
Yes.
before we dive into specific commands.
Exactly. It's about setting you and your dog up for success.
Yeah.
by making sure you understand the underlying principles behind the training techniques.
That's a really smart approach. It feels less like jumping into the deep end.
Yes.
And more like wading in, slowly getting comfortable with the water temperature before you dive in.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what week 1 is all about. It's about building that confidence and understanding before you move on to those more challenging aspects of the program.
Okay, so we've got our vet checkup, we've got our equipment, we've got our treats.
Yes.
And we've brushed up on the basic training theory.
You're ready.
We're officially ready to embark on this 8-week training adventure.
I'm excited for you.
I am too. I am too now, before we jump into week 2, where things start to get real with those fundamental commands. I'm curious, what was your biggest aha moment from week 1?
Oh, let me see.
What really stood out to you as a key takeaway?
You know, it might seem small.
Yeah.
But the emphasis on the leash clasp being vertical to the ground.
Okay.
When the dog is in the correct heel position.
Okay.
It really stuck with me. It's such a subtle but important visual cue that I'd never considered before.
Right.
It's this simple way to make sure there's no tension on the leash, which can make a big difference in how your dog responds to your guidance.
That's a fantastic point. It's those little details
that
can really make a difference.
They can.
It's not just about knowing the commands. It's about understanding like the nuances of how to communicate effectively with your dog.
Exactly. And that's what makes this manual so valuable.
Yeah.
It goes beyond the surface level and delves into those finer points that can transform your training experience.
I'm officially hooked. I'm so excited to see what week 2 has in store for us.
I know, we too.
But for now, we'll leave you hanging on the edge of your seat.
Yes.
You'll have to tune in to the next part to find out what those first 3 fundamental commands are and how to teach them effectively.
Can't wait.
Until then, keep those tails wagging.
All right, so welcome back to your deep dive.
Oh, I am so ready for week 2.
I am too. Week 2 is where things start to get really exciting.
Yeah.
This is where we actually start to see those obedience commands come to life.
I'm ready to put on my trainer hat. Week 1 definitely got me feeling, confident and prepared. So which commands are we tackling first?
All right, so week 2 focuses on 3 classic commands.
Okay.
Sit down and heel on leash.
Okay.
These are like the cornerstones
Yeah.
of basic obedience, and they really set the stage for everything else your dog learns.
Those are the ones you see in every dog training video.
Oh, totally.
I've always wondered what's like the most effective way to teach them.
So the manual breaks each command down into these very specific steps.
Okay.
But beyond the mechanics, what it really emphasizes is the importance of clear communication.
Okay.
You're using a combination of verbal cues, hand signals, and those high-value treats we talked about to really guide your dog towards that desired behavior.
So it's like you're speaking their language.
Yes.
Using a combination of words and gestures and rewards that they understand.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that this approach is about way more than just getting your dog to like physically perform the action.
Yeah.
You're actually shaping their understanding of what's expected of them.
So it's not just about obedience, it's about building a connection and mutual understanding.
Precisely. And that's what makes this program so effective. It's not just about rote memorization of commands.
Right.
It's about helping your dog learn how to learn.
That's fascinating.
It is, isn't it?
I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah.
So how does that play out in week 2? Can you give me like an example?
Sure. So let's take the heel on leash command.
Okay.
Which can be a bit tricky, especially for dogs who, like to pull.
Oh, yeah.
The manual really emphasizes the importance of using that food lure to keep your dog's attention.
Okay.
You're essentially enticing them to stay by your side with the promise of a tasty reward.
So it's like you're leading them on this delicious adventure.
Exactly. And you're constantly adjusting and guiding them with those gentle leash corrections and praise to make sure they understand what heel means.
So it's like this delicate dance between guidance and reward.
That's a great way to put it. And the beauty of this approach is that it's adaptable to your dog's personality and learning style.
That makes me feel so much more confident about tackling this because I know every dog is different.
Yeah.
And I was worried about finding a training method that would work for my specific pup.
Right. Well, that's where the manual's emphasis on observation comes in.
Okay.
It really encourages you to pay attention to your dog's cues and adjust your approach accordingly.
So it's about becoming fluent in dog.
Yes.
and understanding their unique way of communicating.
Precisely.
Nah.
And as you progress through week 2 and beyond,
Yeah.
you'll start to notice these subtle shifts in your dog's behavior. They'll start anticipating your commands.
Okay.
They'll become more eager to please, not because they fear correction,
Right.
but because they've learned that good behavior leads to positive experiences.
It sounds like a win-win for both dog and owner.
It really is. And as you move through the program, you'll encounter concepts like the automatic sit.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. Right. And the introduction of stays.
Okay.
These might seem like small steps, but they're actually huge milestones
Really?
in your dog's training journey.
Okay, so what's so special about the automatic sit?
All right. So
Why is it such a big deal?
it's all about teaching your dog to associate stopping with sitting.
Okay.
So imagine this. You're out for a walk. You come to a stop, and your dog automatically sits beside you
Wow.
without you even giving the command.
That would be so impressive.
I know, right? It's like mind reading.
How do you teach them to do that?
It's all about consistency and repetition.
Okay.
From week 3 onwards, every time you come to a halt while healing, you guide your dog into a sit.
Okay.
Eventually, they start to anticipate that stop
Okay.
and sit on their own.
So they're not just obeying a command, they're learning a pattern of behavior.
Exactly. And that's what makes the automatic sit such a powerful tool.
Okay.
It's about establishing those clear expectations
Right.
and creating this predictable environment for your dog,
Yeah.
which builds trust and makes them feel secure.
It sounds like every step in this program is carefully designed to build upon the previous one,
Yeah,
creating this seamless learning experience for the dog.
it is.
But what about those moments when things don't go according to plan?
Yeah,
What if my dog just isn't getting it?
that's perfectly normal.
Okay. Phew.
The manual acknowledges that, there will be bumps in the road.
Okay, good.
It even dedicates a whole section to troubleshooting learning problems.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Good.
Because I was worried that if my dog struggled with a particular command,
Right.
it meant we were doing something wrong.
It's more likely that the issue lies in the way you're communicating the command, not in your dog's ability to learn.
So it's back to that clear communication we were talking about.
Exactly. The manual encourages you to go back and analyze the situation.
Okay.
Are you being consistent with your verbal cues and hand signals?
Okay.
Are you using the right kind of rewards? Are you being patient and giving your dog enough time to process the information?
Those are all great questions to ask myself.
Yeah.
It's easy to get frustrated when things aren't going smoothly,
Oh, for sure.
but it sounds like taking a step back
Yeah,
and reevaluating the situation can make a huge difference.
it can. And the manual stresses that it's often the trainer's responsibility, not the dog's, if things aren't progressing as expected.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's about taking ownership of that communication process
Okay.
and making sure you're setting your dog up for success.
This is all incredibly insightful. I'm starting to realize that dog training is so much more
Yeah,
than just teaching commands.
it is.
It's about building this deeper understanding of your dog's behavior
Absolutely.
and learning how to communicate effectively with them.
Right, and being patient.
Yeah.
And recognizing that every dog learns at their own pace.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
The manual encourages you to adapt the technique to your dog's individual needs and personality.
So it's about becoming a dog whisperer,
Yes,
not a drill sergeant.
precisely. It's about creating a partnership based on trust and mutual respect.
I like that.
And that's what makes this program so special. It's not just about obedience.
Yeah.
It's about building a stronger bond with your furry friend.
Okay. I'm officially convinced that this manual is a must-read for any dog owner.
It is a good one.
But before we move on to the later stages of the program,
Yeah.
is there anything specific from weeks 3 and 4
Oh, let me see.
that you think would be helpful for me to know at this point?
So weeks 3 and 4 introduce some new challenges
Okay.
that build upon those foundational commands.
Okay.
So you'll start working on things like changing directions while healing,
Okay.
introducing the concept of stays,
Hmm.
and teaching the come for command,
Okay.
which is a more formal way of having your dog come to you and sit directly in front of you.
Okay, so it's like taking those basic building blocks and
Yeah.
creating these more complex structures?
Exactly. But those core principles of clear communication, consistent rewards, and adapting to your dog's individual needs,
Yeah.
those remain the same.
It sounds like there's a real sense of progression and purpose in this program.
Oh, there is. Each week builds upon the previous one,
Okay.
gradually increasing the difficulty and complexity of the commands,
Right.
but always with that focus on positive reinforcement and clear communication.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah,
It's less about forcing your dog to obey
right.
and more about guiding them towards understanding and cooperation.
You got it. And as you move through the program,
Yeah.
you'll be amazed at how quickly your dog catches on and how much they enjoy the process.
Okay, I can't wait to see what else this manual has in store for us. But for now, let's take a little break.
Okay.
Let our listeners digest all this amazing information.
That's so good.
We'll be back soon to delve into the more advanced stages of the program. All right, so welcome back to your deep dive into the world of dog training.
I'm excited to be back.
Me too. We've covered a lot of ground already,
We have.
from understanding those key training principles to mastering those foundational commands, but I'm really excited to see what the later stages of this program have in store for us.
Me too. Weeks 5 through 8 really start to polish those skills,
Okay.
and introduce some really exciting new challenges. It's where you and your dog truly start to shine as a team.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm ready to take things up a notch.
Okay, let's do it.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Okay, so one of the key focuses in these weeks is on proofing those stays. So making them rock solid even with distractions.
Oh, okay.
So you'll start incorporating things like walking around your dog while they're in a stay, adding in little subtle movements,
Okay.
even having other people approach them.
So it's about testing their focus and impulse control
Exactly.
in these increasingly challenging situations.
You got it. And it's amazing to see how much progress they make each week.
Yeah.
Remember that concept of the automatic sit we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Well, in week 5,
Uh-huh.
you start incorporating that into the stay.
Oh, okay.
So whenever you return to your dog after they've held a stay, they'll automatically sit,
Okay.
showing you that they're still engaged and focused.
That's so cool. It's like they're anticipating your next move
Yes.
and showing you how much they understand.
I love that it's a beautiful demonstration of the partnership that you're building.
I love that. Okay, so week 6, what happens then?
Okay, so in week 6, things get even more exciting
Oh, boy.
because you start practicing in more distracting environments.
So it's like taking the show on the road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The manual suggests heading to local parks,
Okay.
shopping center parking lots, anywhere with a little bit of hustle and bustle,
Yeah.
just to see how your dog handles those real-world distractions.
That makes a lot of sense. It's one thing to have them obey commands in the comfort of your own home,
Right.
but it's a whole other ball game when you're out in the world with all those sights and sounds and smells competing for their attention.
Absolutely. And this is where all that foundation work you've been doing really pays off, because your dog will have developed that focus and impulse control
Okay.
to stay by your side, even when there are squirrels running up trees or other dogs passing by.
It's like they're becoming mini obedience champions
They are.
right before your eyes.
They're like pros.
Okay. Week 7 hit me.
All right, week 7, we get to one of the most rewarding commands of all,
Oh,
formal recall.
I've been looking forward to this one. There's nothing quite like seeing your dog come bounding towards you with joy when you call their name.
Oh, it's the best.
But I know it takes a lot of training to get to that point.
You're right. It's not something that you rush into.
Right.
The manual really emphasizes that formal recall should only be practiced
Okay.
once your dog is super solid on their sit stay.
Okay.
You start by having them hold a stay while you walk a short distance away,
Uh-huh.
and you call them to come and sit in front of you.
Okay.
So it's like a supercharged version of the come command,
Yeah.
with that added challenge of holding that stay in their mind.
Right. It's like they have to remember that they were staying.
They do. And as they get better at it,
Uh-huh.
you gradually increase the distance and the level of distractions,
Oh?
building up their confidence and reliability.
Okay, so we've got those rock solid stays. We're practicing in distracting environments. We're mastering the art of formal recall. What else is on the agenda for these final weeks?
Okay, so week 8, it's all about putting those finishing touches on your dog's training.
Okay.
You'll continue to refine those stays and formal recall,
Right.
but you'll also start incorporating more complex healing maneuvers, like healing squares.
Healing squares. That sounds intriguing.
It is.
Tell me more.
So it involves setting up obstacles like in a square formation
Okay.
and practicing different turns around them. So you'll be stringing together those 90-degree turns, those about turns, and those automatic sits
Okay.
to create this really fluid and impressive healing routine.
It's like a synchronized dance with your dog.
It is. And by this point, they'll be so in tune with your movements and commands
Yeah.
that it'll feel effortless.
I'm already picturing myself walking my dog with confidence and pride,
Yeah.
knowing that they've got those rock-solid obedience skills down pat.
That's the beauty of this program. It not only transforms your dog's behavior,
Yeah.
but also your relationship with them. You'll develop this deeper understanding of each other and a stronger bond based on trust and mutual respect.
I can honestly say this deep dive has been so eye-opening.
Good. I'm good.
I never realized how much thought and strategy goes into dog training.
There's a lot, isn't there?
There is. It's not just about commands.
It's so much more.
It's about communication, patience, consistency, and most importantly, building that strong and loving connection with your furry friend.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So what do you say we wrap up this deep dive?
I think that's a great idea.
We've covered so much from the basics to those more advanced techniques.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
And I feel, really equipped and inspired
Good.
to embark on my own training journey with renewed enthusiasm.
Awesome. I love that.
And I think the most important takeaway for our listeners is that dog training should be a fun and rewarding experience.
Yes.
For both you and your dog. So embrace those challenges,
Yes.
celebrate those victories, and never underestimate the power of a loving and consistent approach.
I love that. And, if you're ever feeling stuck or unsure,
Yeah,
remember you're not alone. There are so many resources out there,
absolutely.
including this amazing manual from the city of Vancouver.
It's fantastic. So go out there, put those newfound skills into practice,
Yeah.
and watch your bond with your furry friend just grow stronger with each passing day.
That's the best part.
And remember, keep those tails wagging.
Wagging.